So I thought if I wore this hat, then I would get a bunch more views. Anyway, the whole reason that I'm making this video is so that I can explain some of my playoff predictions, because I assume that a lot of you don't understand why I pick certain teams to win in certain games. A lot of you thought there was going to be some upsets, so I would just like to take this time to explain some of my predictions. So I'll start in the Western Conference with the Lakers and Jazz series. So I basically just think that the Lakers are going to win the series because they're just so much better than the Jazz. I mean, they have Kobe Bryant. Enough said. And I think the Nuggets are going to be able to beat the Hornets in 5 games because the Nuggets are now a pretty good defensive team. They have a lot down low with Nene and Chris Anderson. So they're going to be able to create a lot of problems for the Hornets because they have people like David West, who's an undersized power forward anyway. And the Nuggets have players like Carmelo Anthony and J.R. Smith that can just score points and are very hard to guard, and that I don't think the Hornets have anybody who can guard those players except for maybe James Posey. And I thought that the Nuggets were so good that the Hornets would only be able to win one of their home playoff games against them because, home court advantage can sometimes do a lot for a team. But I still thought that the Nuggets were going to be able to beat the Hornets at home at least once. Okay, so for the Spurs and Mavericks series, this was one series that a lot of people thought was definitely going to be an upset because the Mavericks were playing really well at the end of the season. So they thought that it was going to carry over to the postseason, and the Spurs, Tim Duncan is injured, but he's still playing, but he's not playing the same way that he used to, and they don't have Manu Ginobili. But I still thought that the Spurs were going to be able to win this series, even though it looks like that now it probably is going to be an upset. But again, I made those predictions before the playoffs even started. Well, I still thought that the Spurs were going to be able to win because they're just a championship caliber team, and they know what it takes to win. And then for the Rockets and Trailblazers series, I thought that the Portland Trailblazers were going to be able to really use their home court advantage against the Rockets, even though they ended up losing their home court advantage after Game 1. And now they're down 3-1 to the Rockets, but I still thought that they were going to be able to win because even though the Trailblazers are a young team and the Rockets have much more playoff experience, I still thought that the Trailblazers were going to be able to outlast the Rockets in this series. But, Yao was just too dominant down low for them. They haven't been able to guard him all series. So that's why it looks like that the Rockets might actually end up winning this series. Unless the Trailblazers are really able to use their youth and come back in this series, then maybe we'll see if they come out with a lot more energy in Game 5 when it's really necessary for them to win. So now moving on to the Eastern Conference, the Cavaliers and the Pistons series. Obviously that's already over and the Cavaliers won it, but I figured it was going to be a sweep because the Pistons just totally fell apart at the end of the season and they weren't going to be using Allen Iverson. And the Cavaliers have LeBron James and they just have a much more complete team than the Pistons, so I figured that was easily going to be a 4-game sweep. Let's see, Celtics and Bulls. A lot of people think that the Bulls are going to end up winning the series just because they won Game 1 and they have a lot more bigger and stronger guys down low like Joakim Noah and Tyrese Thomas, which the Celtics lack because they don't have Kevin Garnett and they have smaller power forwards like Glenn Davis and Leon Poe. But I still thought that the Celtics were going to be able to win because, they won last year. And they know what it takes to win, and they have the hearts of champions. And obviously, they're just going to be pushing it and trying to win as much as they can, even though they don't have Kevin Garnett. So I didn't think that the Bulls were really actually going to be that much of a problem for them, but it looks like that they are going to be a problem for them. So that series might actually end up going down to 6 or 7 games. So moving on to the Magic and the 76ers series, I don't really think that the 76ers are that great of a team at all. I don't think that they'll be able to live off of getting points down in the paint because of Dwight Howard of the Magic being there. And the 76ers can't really, they're not a very good outside shooting team. So that's mainly going to be where some of their shots are going to be, there in mid-range. So I think that the Magic are still going to win this series even though it's tied 2-2, because unless the 76ers can start making their outside shots, then they're not going to be that much of a threat to anybody in the postseason. Okay, so for the Hawks and the Heat, I predicted that the Hawks would win in 7 games, and I think that they're still going to win in 7 games, even though the Heat have Dwayne Wade, because you can't have a one-man show in the playoffs, which is basically what the Heat are. Because everybody on the Heat is just located around Dwayne Wade, and he can't carry his whole team through the playoffs. So even if he does make his team win the series, I don't think that they're going to get very far in the playoffs at all. But I still think that the Hawks are going to win this series. So those are my predictions, and if you don't like them, then you can tell me why in a comment. And if I think that you have a really good point, then I'll make a whole new vlog just to explain why I still feel the way that I do. Or maybe your point's so good that it actually changed my opinion, so it just depends. But yeah, if you have any questions or anything, or anything that you want me to answer in another video, then just put it in the comments section.